So we've covered a lot of territory today, and I just want to finish up with a few thoughts. I'm going to begin by saying something that sounds unreasonable to you. As I mentioned, I've worked with lots of people who are supposed to have had dyslexia, the inability to read. I have never failed to help somebody make the dyslexia go away, usually in 15 or 20 minutes. I don't believe dyslexia exists. What exists is an inability for people to do something in the process because they've never been taught properly. Once we teach them, they don't have the problem anymore. And it's not difficult if you know what all the elements are, because people are always making the same mistakes. Every person I've ever seen, child or adult, who, quote, had this terrible disease, was doing one of several things wrong. Most of the things I've already showed you, it either had to do with their state, or it had to do with something they were doing around the way they held the book. It could be physically uncomfortable. It could have been the way they were moving their eyes. And usually it was about comprehension as well, what they were doing with the information when they were seeing it. In the books that I wrote, in both of them, but especially in Teaching and Learning, there's instructions for what to do when somebody has, quote, dyslexia. It's an easy problem to solve. It's much easier than many of the other things that we do. And I know to a lot of people that's going to sound like an unreasonable claim. So I want you to just try it for yourself. Find somebody who's got the problem and explore with them. Find out how they're doing it. What you will discover is they're reading differently than you do. They're just doing it differently. And if you can compare the way they do it with the way that you do it, it will probably become obvious to you what they're doing that just doesn't work. And if you can get them to do it differently, they won't have the problem anymore. It's really not that hard. Now, the thing about that is, like a lot of things in education, a lot of things in psychotherapy, a lot of things in science, there are a lot of people who will tell you, well, that's not possible, this is a terrible disease, it takes years, or it's incurable, or whatever people are going to say about it. I'm going to make the unreasonable claim that there isn't any dyslexia. It's not a disease. People are simply doing something wrong. It's the case with almost everything in education that gives people trouble. They're just doing something that doesn't work because somebody either showed them something to do in a way that didn't work, or somebody forgot to show them something to do in a way that does work. Explore for yourselves.